Hi there. I'm so glad you're here. Your time is precious, and because of that, I want to let you know right away what you'll gain by listening to the very last second of this episode. My last episode on Monday highlighted why federal education policy affects real students in real classrooms. In this bonus episode, I share why we as educators must transform from being passive policy recipients to informed advocates, how we can use our classroom experience and evidence based experiences to professionally engage in policy discussions that directly impact our students' success. You'll learn why knowledge is power in advocacy, how professional relationships trump political positions, and why documentation creates advocacy gold. Stay with me. I'm so happy to have you as a listener today. This is Solutions Coaching and Teaching Strategies, the podcast that extends education beyond the classroom. A show that offers educators and caregivers strategies to try right away and ensure every student receives the inspiration and support they need to thrive. Hey there, and welcome back to this week's bonus episode of Solutions Teaching Strategies. I'm Olivia Wall, and if you listened to Monday's episode about the Department of Education court ruling, you heard me talk about how we as educators need to stay engaged in policy discussions, not as political partisans, but as professionals who understand what students actually need to succeed. Well, today I want to get practical about that. Summer is the perfect time to set up what I'm calling your advocacy toolkit, the knowledge, relationships, and resources that will help you speak up effectively for your students when policy decisions come up during the school year. So let's talk about 5 specific things you can do this summer to become a more informed and effective advocate for the kids you serve. All right, so this is task number 1, and this might sound boring, but stick with me. This summer, take some time to understand how your school is actually funded. Here's why this matters. Remember in Monday's episode when I talked about how the Department of Education's lawyers who handle K 12 grants were all fired? Well, if you don't know which grants your school receives, you can't advocate effectively when those funding streams are threatened. So, here's what to do. Schedule a 30-minute coffee chat with someone in your district's business office or your principal. Ask these specific questions. What federal grants does our school receive? How much Title I funding do we get? And what does it pay for? What about IDEA funds for special education? And do we get any rural education grants or technology grants? And please don't get me wrong, I am not saying that we have to become experts overnight, but we do need to get the basics. Because when budget discussions happen, and they will, you'll be the teacher who can say, actually, that program is funded through Title II-A, and if we lose that, we'll lose our literacy coach who's been helping striving readers in 3rd grade. That's the kind of specific evidence-based advocacy that actually changes minds. Here's task 2, building your information network. I mentioned this in Monday's episode. We can't just rely on social media or partisan news outlets to understand what's happening in education policy. This summer, set up a simple system to stay informed. Here's what I recommend. First, subscribe to newsletters. Find outlets that have specific newsletters for different topics like special education, federal policy, state policy. Pick 1 or 2 that are most relevant to your role. Second, find your state's education department newsletter or blog. Most state departments have regular updates about federal guidance, funding announcements, and policy changes. Third, and this is important, follow the social media accounts or websites of your professional organizations. If you're a reading teacher, follow the International Literacy Association. If you're a principal, follow NAESP. These organizations often have the most accurate, timely information about how policy changes will actually affect practitioners. Set up a simple folder in your email or a bookmark folder in your browser. Spend 10 minutes every Friday morning during the school year Just scanning these sources, you'll be amazed how much more confident you feel in conversations about education policy. And task 3, documenting your reality. Okay, so task number 3, and this is where your classroom experience becomes advocacy gold. Start documenting the real impact of policies on your students. Here's what I mean. In Monday's episode, I talked about how the most effective advocacy focuses on concrete student impact rather than abstract political arguments. Well, you have those concrete examples every day. You just need to start capturing them. This summer, create what I call an advocacy evidence file. It could be as simple as a Google Doc or a notebook where you track things like when federal or state testing requirements take time away from instruction, how special education funding affects your ability to serve students with disabilities, what happens when you lose support staff due to budget cuts, and success stories from federally funded programs. For example, maybe you have a student who made huge reading gains because of your school's Title I reading intervention program. That's not just a nice story, that's evidence that federal funding works. Write it down. Or maybe you have a student with autism who's thriving because of services funded by IDEA grants. Document that. Because when someone says, we don't need federal education funding, you can say, actually, let me tell you about Marcus, who's in my class. Real stories about real students, that's what changes policy conversations. All right, task number 4, identify and connect with your local reps. And I don't mean stalking them on social media. I mean building genuine professional relationships. This summer, do some research. Who represents your district at the state level? Who's your congressman or congresswoman? Most importantly, who are their education staff members? And here's a secret. Legislators often rely heavily on their staff to understand complex issues like education. And these staff members are usually eager to hear from actual practitioners who can explain how policies work in real classrooms. So here's something you could try this summer. Send a brief, professional email to your state representative and your member of Congress. Introduce yourself as an educator in their district. Don't ask for anything. Just let them know you're available as a resource if they ever have questions about how education policies affect students in schools. Keep it simple. Hi, I'm your name, and I teach your grade or subject at your school in your district. I've been in education for however many years, and I'd be happy to serve as a resource if you ever need insight into how education policies affect students and teachers in our community. Most of them will never take you up on it, but some will. And when they do, you'll have a direct line to policymakers who actually want to hear from you. Task number 5, strengthen your connection to your professional organizations. In Monday's episode, I talked about how the American Federation of Teachers was one of the plaintiffs in the Department of Education lawsuit. Whether you're a union member or not, the point is that organized educator voices carry more weight than individual complaints. This summer, identify the professional organizations that align with your role and values. Maybe it's your state teachers association. Maybe it's a subject-specific organization like the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics or the International Society for Technology and Education. Here's what to do. Don't just pay dues and forget about it. Get involved. Attend a webinar, join a committee, volunteer for a task force. Because these organizations are doing the policy advocacy work that individual teachers often can't do alone. They're the ones tracking legislation, writing position papers, and meeting with policymakers. When you're connected to them, you're connected to a larger movement of educators who share your commitment to student success. So, why does this matter? Let me pause and acknowledge something. Some of you might be thinking, I just want to teach. I don't want to become a policy expert or a political activist. And I get it. I really do. But here's the thing. And this is what Monday's episode was really about. Education policy affects every single thing you do in your classroom. The curriculum you teach, the resources you have available, the support services for your students, the way you're evaluated as a professional, all of that is shaped by policy decisions. The choice isn't whether to be affected by policy. You're already affected. The choice is whether to have a voice in shaping those policies or to let others make decisions about your profession without your input. And when I say have a voice, I don't mean arguing on Facebook or complaining in the teacher's lounge. I mean engaging professionally with evidence and expertise in the conversations that shape education. And here's what gives me hope. The Department of Education court case that I discussed on Monday wasn't won by politicians or pundits. It was won by educators and school districts who presented evidence-based arguments about student impact. They did not just say, "We don't like this policy." Instead, they said, "Here's documented proof that this approach will harm the students we're legally obligated to serve." That's the kind of advocacy that works. That's the kind of voice that policymakers actually listen to. And that's the kind of influence you can have when you combine your classroom expertise with strategic engagement. So here's my summer challenge for you. Pick one of these 5 tasks and commit to it. Just one. Don't try to do everything at once. Maybe you choose to have that conversation with your business office about funding. Maybe you set up a simple system to stay informed about education news. Maybe you document one powerful student success story. Maybe you send that email to your representative. Maybe you join one professional organization committee. Just pick one thing and do it well. Because small, consistent actions add up to big changes over time. And I'll say it again. What I realized after recording Monday's episode is that the Department of Education court case is actually a perfect example of what happens when educators stay engaged in policy discussions professionally rather than politically. The plaintiffs in that case, school districts, teachers' unions, and state attorneys general, didn't win because they were more politically powerful than the Trump administration. Again, they won because they presented better evidence about what would actually happen to students in schools. That's the model for all of us. When we speak up for students from our expertise and experience, rather than from ideology, we're incredibly powerful advocates. And speaking of advocacy, I'm so excited about my summer series. As I mentioned in my last reel post on social, instead of taking the summer off, I'm going to release 20 mini episodes of tasks you can do to set yourself up for success in the fall. But again, I need your help. What do you do now as a teacher as you're packing up your classroom or over the summer that helps you get set up for success when you kick off the new school year? Please send me emails at solutionspodcast@gmail.com. I want your best practical tips. Everything from small stuff like getting pencils labeled and ready to the bigger picture stuff like reflecting on units of study you want to keep or let go of. Your ideas will help shape the summer series, and I can't wait to hear from you. And before I wrap up today, I want to come back to something I said in Monday's episode. Your voice as an educator matters more than you might think, especially when you speak up from evidence and experience rather than ideology. The 5 tasks I've outlined today aren't about turning you into a political activist. They're about helping you become a more informed and effective advocate for the students you serve. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. Making sure that every policy decision, from the classroom level to the federal level, is made with real students in mind. And nobody understands real students better than the educators who work with them every day. That's a wrap on today's bonus episode. I hope this gives you some practical ways to use your summer to become a more effective advocate for your students. Remember, you don't have to do everything at once. Pick one task, do it well, and build from there. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to email me your best end of the year and summer prep tips for my upcoming summer series. Again, I'm at scolutionspodcast@gmail.com. I'll see you Monday for another episode of Scolutions Teaching Strategies. And until then, keep teaching, keep learning, and keep advocating for what's best for kids. Take care. Scolutions Teaching Strategies is created, produced, and edited by me, Olivia Wall. Thank you to my older son, Benjamin, who created the music playing in the background. You can follow and listen to Scolutions wherever you get your podcasts, or subscribe to never miss an episode and watch on YouTube. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Send me an email at scolutionspodcast@gmail.com. Let me know how you plan to become a more effective advocate for your students. Remember, you don't have to do everything at once. Pick one task, do it well, and build from there. Don't forget to also share your best end of the year and summer prep tips for my upcoming series. Tune in every Monday for the best research-backed coaching and teaching strategies you can apply right away to better the lives of the children in your care. And stay tuned for my bonus episodes every Friday, where I'll reflect and share connections to what I learned from my guests that week. See you then.